So in this tutorial, we're actually making a picture frame, and I also have someone live, so they'll be asking any kind of questions that comes to mind. So hopefully you as a viewer, if you have these same questions, she'll hit them or I'll be hitting them on point. So I have a real basic picture frame. All I did was just take a cube and extrude it a bunch of times. Inside the UV editing, if I select all these faces, you'll see that this has already been set up and ready for texturing. However, if this is a portrait, we want there to be an image in here. Now ideally, I want to be able to take this frame and slap an image in the center, just swap the image out. The way we do that is we can simply come up here to Add, Mesh, and we'll create a plane. Now generally when working with any kind of image, all you have to do is just click on New, and let's go and just call this Picture. So I already have a picture set up from earlier, so that's why this is .001 instead of just regular whatever I called it. So in here, we're going to use my lovely portrait right here. I'm actually going to show you two of them. This one is 200 by 200, so this one is a perfect square. This one is 385 by 453, so this one is a little odd. And then we have this high resolution one, which is 720 by 960. So I'm just going to use a couple of these image textures. I'm going to explain what's going on. So in here, depending on what version of Blender you have, if you have the newer version, you'll have a little dot right here. If you have, I believe it's 2.8 or older, your little section will be, your little dot will be over here. But by clicking on that, you'll get this little drop-down menu right here, and you're going to go to Image Texture. So once you have Image Texture selected, you might be seeing this, and then you'll be like, oh, okay, I just need to go here. Let me go ahead and find that image, which in this case, my lovely portrait, the one that's even is number 0. And then you're like, well, I got it in here, but nothing's happening. The reason why nothing's happening, because you're actually on shaded. So you actually need to click on the icon next to it, and this will be Viewport Shading with texture images. So then now we're in this, and we're like, okay, well, let's go ahead and scale this up and get this picture to fit in here, and hey, something's not right. Well, what's going on is you're actually stretching this image. And so you can either modify the image, or you could modify the UV texture inside of it. If we decide to go ahead and do it easily, because we know that we can crop part of this image out, so we can simply click on the UV editing tab up here. We will make sure that this face is selected. Whatever object we're working within, the face needs to be selected. So we can simply fix that by just moving this over here, and now we have a portrait of whatever we're trying to create. Just moving some points around, just trying to match those up. That's all we're doing in here. So that's if you're working with something that has a slight offset. The other thing that you also want to be aware of is this where it comes into pixel sizes. So if we go back into layout, I'm actually going to select the other image, which has a bunch of numbers and stuff that you guys probably aren't even interested in. If you already have one that's open, you'll just click on the folder icon. And I am looking for this one, I do believe. Nope, not that one. The image I am looking for has a bunch of numbers. I believe this is it. That is not it either. So let's go and take a look at this one right here. It is 36884792. That's the item I am looking for. 36884792. There we go. So this one is going to look a little, well, it's going to look a little weird first of all, because we still have the transforms of the plane. So if I select, oh, not that, there we go. I'm going to select this image. Oh, come on, Blender, don't do this to me. So we can see that this one right here, this is actually a rather tall picture. So in this instance, we wouldn't really need to do any editing. You can see that that actually fits in rather nicely. I'm like, yeah, I probably need to do some, but not much. Ideally, though, you're not going to want all this background space. I'm like, yeah, it's kind of cool, but generally speaking, when you have a portrait, you may want to kind of like start working within some of this region, something like that. And so that's basically how you'd work with images and things like that. I know this is a shorter than normal tutorial, but this is how you would take an image of any kind and post it on there. On one of my other screens, I'm going to show you this last, is actually a YouTube video about building worlds. and building worlds within Blender. So I just saved the image, and we're actually going to replace it with this. And because this guy, he's like one of the main guys that kind of like came up with some of this stuff. Well, he's not one of the main ones that came up with some of this stuff, but he definitely. It'd help if I actually add the PNG to that. There we go. Okay, so this guy right here, he's one of the guys who's like really been working within some of the stuff. So right now, inside of this, you'll notice that since we updated here, it's no longer updated here. Well, that's because the nodes between these two no longer match. So to fix it, all you have to do is just click on that, come down to Capture, and because that's the name of this file, and there we go. And so the last thing we will need to do is we'll need to select this face and start manipulating. Now we're going to get some really weird stretching, but as before, all we have to do is just try to get what we can. And considering that this came from YouTube, we don't even really have to worry about that. We can just kind of like line it up like so. And I'm actually going to bring this down. Oh, come on, Blender. I'm going to bring this down. I'm going to select down here. I'm going to bring this up. And we may actually need to scale this in just a little bit. And scale that in just a little. And there we go. So that is how you would, those are the real simple ways. 90% of the time you're actually going to be working within the UV editor. This way you can just manipulate vertices, move them around however you need to. Very rarely will you need to go into an application like Paint, Krita, Photoshop, or whatever, actually start tweaking the image itself. So, any questions?
You are very thorough at that. I guess the only thing that I would recommend is how would you apply what's currently in there with the texture on the outside for the frame, just to be thorough.
So the frame, that's actually a really good question. The frame itself, you would just simply take an image and apply it on here, because the frame is already, it's already been UV wrapped. So essentially, if I was going to apply a material to the frame, I can just simply come in here with the frame selected. I'm going to go ahead and create a new material. I mean, yeah, I could just use this material, but I don't want to. So I'm going to click on this, and this is going to be called frame. And so from here, all I need to do is find a wooden frame, which I don't think I have one on my desktop. I do not have one on my desktop. But you know what I do have? I have my Terminator face, and that is exactly what we are going to use. Oh, I guess I also have this little thing. Do what?
As long as you can use the desktop, right?
I like using my desktop. So, just like before, we're actually going to go and click on Image Texture. And then we need to find the name of our texture. In this case, it is Terminator. Terminator face, specifically. So, we're going to come in here. We're going to not come in there, but we're going to click on open. There we go. Let's go to desktop, and I'm going to press T2. Hey, it doesn't do it. Let's see, Terminator face, open. So yeah, it doesn't look like we expect it to, and if we had a wood texture, like if we were to bring this in Substance, it would look a lot better. But you know what we can do? We can come in here. We can change the surface subcolor. I'm actually going to bring that down just a little bit. Well, actually, we don't need to worry about subsurface, because if we're bringing this to a video game, that's not something you have to worry about. The metallic, okay, we might want to bring that up. I'm going to say 0.25. And let's go and make it 0.5, because why not? This will kind of like give us an idea on what we can kind of look at within a video game. A lot of this other stuff we don't really even need to worry about. So we have this right here, and that is basically how I would make, of course this would be a wood texture once again, but this is kind of how I would do something like this.
That's good. The only other question I would have is, with it being for games, and just to be thorough again, would probably don't need to put up the system, but that can go another time.
Say what?
Blender's particle system?
So any particle system within Blender, those will basically won't even transfer over. The particle systems that you create within any kind of game, you'll want to use a particle system within that game engine. The way I understand particle systems is they all have different readings. It's basically like they read within themselves. I don't know how else to explain it. But basically, Mesh, it just looks at different vertices and it calculates the distance between vertice A to vertice B to vertice C and all of that. Whereas particle systems are more dynamic. And so when it comes to particle systems, generally, I don't know if there's another way around this or not, but up to my knowledge there's not. But generally you're going to want to create those particle systems within that game engine and use its own physics to calculate what that particle system is doing.
Mm-hmm. No problem. I can't think of anything else to ask for people to know more about this.
Okay. So, I believe that'll be it for this tutorial. Hope to see y'all later.